The Dig South Tech Summit returns here to the College of Charleston this week for a week-long celebration of innovation, networking events, and startup events. Today, I talk one-on-one with Stanfield Gray, the founder and CEO of this summit for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, sponsored by Pollen. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Stanfield Gray.
Quintin, how's it going, man?
Good. Welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups for this interview sponsored by Pollen.
Right, Pollen's one of our sponsors this year as well. A new company, they've got an amazing social media platform that helps you distribute your content, get in front of people seamlessly.
And you mentioned those particular notable companies because obviously you're bringing back Dig South Tech Summit for the 13th year here in the Low Country.
That's right. Yeah, this is year number 13. So Dig South Tech Summit is the South's tech event. You know, we focus on helping companies find the content, contacts, and capital opportunities they need to scale, grow, launch, succeed. So there is, about 20% of the event is focused on startups. The 30 to 40% in the middle is very focused on growth stage companies that are anywhere from 10 to 400 employees in that range. And then beyond that, we have some Fortune 500 brands, in addition to service providers who work with all of those companies. So it's a great mix of people that are really focused on growing and scaling, and they're really trying to get that business off the ground, refine it, and succeed.
Let me ask you something. Putting aside obviously your tech summit, let's go to Dig South itself. How have you been able to scale, launch, and succeed this brand?
Great question. So the only way we've been able to do that is through a lot of phenomenal partnerships. We've had a lot of support over the years from groups like Charleston County Economic Development that'll be sponsoring our Upload Charleston event, the big welcome party for the summit, through the Charleston Regional Development Alliance. It's been a fantastic partner of ours, and then a whole array of really great sponsors that have, especially the College of Charleston, really our stalwart host sponsor here. And so through those relationships and through that support, we've been able to grow a community around Dig South. And this year we're very fortunate to launch Charleston Tech Week with over a dozen organizations that'll be doing things like Charleston Hacks, AI Film Fest, Startup Grind, 1 Million Cups. Code and Trust is involved with Startup Grind, and then we've got a whole array of things. The Mentor Matchup with Charleston Women in Tech. We've got Reforge Gaming Lounge doing an event with Tech After 5. If anybody remembers the great Tech After 5, they're returning to Charleston this year. It's after a pandemic delay. And so through that community of people that we support, that support us, we've really been able to help just be a small part of this phenomenal ecosystem.
What is the state of this ecosystem as you know it from your perspective, Stanfield?
As I know it, I see a lot of new companies coming into the area that are thriving, that are hiring people, that are getting involved. This year we're working with Gnosis Freight, a fantastic supply chain, company. We're working with Quicksort RX. Those guys have been very supportive as well. And as you can see, some of the companies are in the health tech space, some are in supply chain. Query has been a great supporter of ours in the artificial intelligence space, using LLMs to make sense of your data. So these companies are really focused on how they can build and grow here in Charleston, but they think globally. They're able to build teams through whether that's a fractional executive that supports the operation, whether they have people, in technology, even prior to the pandemic, it was very common for companies to be partially hybrid, partially remote, partially in person. And so that's not an uncommon thing to see among the types of companies that we work with. So it's fun, it's dynamic. I think you can always use more support no matter where you are for companies. So that may be in terms of funding. We'd love to see more investors get involved and kick the tires. We have Daring Ventures coming down from New York this year. We have 11 Tribes coming in, another venture fund. So we have some new investors kind of kicking the tires, looking around. And it's exciting to see that. We have new founders, new blood, a lot of new ideas, and there's kind of an explosion around artificial intelligence and LLMs and people thinking, I have more resources at my disposal. I have a new powerful tool that can help me build and innovate. Let's see what we can do with that. So that's what I'm most excited about. In the next 3 to 5 years, I think we're going to see some incredible companies emerge out of that AI space, or companies that are AI powered, AI enabled, and they're going to do some dynamic, really phenomenal things.
as you know, I'm 40 years old now, Stanfield. But when you look back at to when you came to Charleston to right now with that growth, how do you actually build and grow these companies with Charleston's emerging growth?
Right. Well, I mean, Charleston is a phenomenal destination. You know, people love to come here. It's beautiful. It's no secret that we have 7.5 million tourists a year, or whatever the odd count is, coming into town. Also has an incredible food scene. People love the culinary experience. But underneath all of that, people have to afford to live here. They've got to power, you know, they need to grow their companies and scale. Technology companies and tech power companies pay high wages. They really support the kind of livelihood that's required to be in Charleston today. And so that's important that we help them grow and scale, hoping that they hire, hoping that they continue to build and develop here. Because if we don't, then I don't know if we have enough of these kind of jobs for the next generation. I want my kids to be able to afford to live here. They're going off to college now. When they return, we need companies that can, you know, hire college educated people that can support those salaries. And I believe that the technology sector is the best poised, the best, you know, position to do that for our kids.
This might be a redundant question, but what tools do we have to bring those types of jobs to Charleston right now?
Tools. So, well, a lot of that's largely dependent on like the relationships between the economic development groups. So Charleston County Economic Development, Charleston Regional Development Alliance, Town of Mount Pleasant, you know, City of Charleston, of course, North Charleston, on up to the South Carolina Commerce Department, and then at the federal level. And so there's a lot of engagement across all these different organizations, across municipalities, to really think strategically more like a region. You know, we can't just think in our bubble anymore. Everyone every day is crossing different municipal lines, and they're going to their job or they're going home, and we have to think about it that way too, you know, as well. Like, where do we want to work? Where do we want to live? What zoning do we support? And the beautiful thing about startups, about tech companies, they can start in small spaces. They don't require a giant footprint like a manufacturing plant. Manufacturing has been very good to South Carolina, especially advanced manufacturing. Now the second phase of that could be startups that support the technology, the robotics, the marketing, you know, all the systems, all the new products, the data centers, the things that power the big manufacturers. That's an incredible ripple effect of companies, largely in the technology space, whether it's software, hardware, etc. But those companies, then in tandem with those, you know, economic support groups, other organizations, with investors, they create kind of a larger ecosystem. And that ecosystem, it thrives on things like Dig South Tech Summit, like the Charleston Digital Corridor and their I-5K race that builds culture and community. And so, you know, we have to connect those threads. And then the Harbor Entrepreneur Center is a phenomenal space in Mount Pleasant. Our office is headquartered there. We partner very frequently with Grady Johnson and the Harbor to really, you know, make sure that we're connecting people, that they're finding that collision, as the Harbor likes to say. So this is all a long-winded way of saying it really takes everyone to, you know, lift all boats at the same time. And without all of those critical, interesting pieces, all that dynamic kind of interaction going on, you can't support an ecosystem. It won't thrive. So really, that's the key, is everyone thinking about collaboration, about support, and about fun, man. I mean, frankly, Dig South is a lot of fun.
Yes.
The Charleston Hacks AI, you know, Film Festival will be super fun, interesting. You know, the partnership with High Tide Music Festival at the Moxie, we're doing the really fun Tech After Dark, when we have a panel discussion on the technology behind being a DJ, the technology of an influencer. Another, you know, Warner Media is going to do a panel discussion around that. You know, technology for people who maybe don't feel like that they are, you know, tech enabled, but they like to be. You know, how can they learn more? What can they do to use those tools, as you mentioned earlier? So that's where we are. I mean, here we are today, you know, with an iPhone, shooting the show and having fun with you. And I think 10 years ago, when we were in the library, the technology was not as evolved or developed. I'm sure it took you many more hours to edit, film, upload it. Today, here we are. We shoot it, and we're live, and then it's up in the air.
Right.
And then our great friends at Pollen, you know, social media can help you distribute all of this and get it out there to the right channels.
Yes. Speaking of those right channels, Stanfield, What other channels do you want to connect this community with when it comes to technology?
In what sense?
From a general perspective. Where do you, well, let me ask you this.
Yeah. Okay.
What companies?
I can answer that.
Okay.
So we built a website for Charleston Tech Week, and it's charlestontechweek.org. And of course, we have the one for Dig South Tech Summit, digsummit.com. But with charlestontechweek.org, you can go there right now while it's hot and active. We've got 23 events over the next 9 days, starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
And what's cool about that is you can see a good slice of the kind of core organizations that are doing this day in, day out, year round. And then you can plug into them year round. So I would say those are the key channels. Go to charlestontechweek.org, find what makes sense to you, where you want to plug in. It may be Dig South, it might be the Digital Corridor, it might be the Harbor Entrepreneur Center, it might be Women in Tech. Look down the list, get involved, call them. They're very welcoming, very open, very friendly at every price point. Half the events are free, many of them are $10, $25. Find your price point and your budget. Find something that you want to learn and you want to know more about, or find your tribe. Maybe you're working at home, you're a software developer and you haven't gotten out much lately and you really like to meet other software developers. I promise you, if you're interested in technology and you want to use that to power and grow your company, you will find something at charlestontechweek.org that is for you.
Oh, what is the biggest difference about the Dig South Tech Summit from 13 years ago to right now?
Wow, that's a great question. So, the biggest difference is really that it's not, 13 years ago, not everyone even had a website. Not everyone used social media for their business. Not everyone even understood that many of the tools they were using were tech powered. They thought, oh, this is a software or coder person. I don't know anything about coding. I don't work in technology. Today, you can code having no knowledge of coding using an LLM or using artificial intelligence. You can use social media channels to build a really strong global e-commerce platform for your business based here in Charleston. There, you can now store everything in the cloud.
Yeah.
You can really power your business in a way that was not possible 13 years ago, or it wasn't possible unless you had many millions of dollars. So I would say that's the greatest factor, is really the playing field has been leveled in the sense that the barrier to entry for a person today is much, much, much lower in a tech career, a tech business, than it was 13 years ago. So that's exciting.
What more barriers do you want to eliminate with your tech summit?
Good question. I think people just need to not be shy. Just come out and say, hey, I didn't think this was for me, and then I went and I had a great time, and people were really friendly, and you know what, it is for me. I don't think anybody needs to be scared of technology anymore. I don't think there's not really a snob, kind of factor around, oh, you don't understand this, or, you don't code, or, you don't really understand product development. It's actually quite the opposite. People want to hear your ideas, and they want to hear what problems you have in your business so that they can help you solve those. So the companies that I work with, they are looking for people who have problems, are curious, want to solve them, but don't have the solution, so that they can provide that solution to them. So I would say, that's really a great way to plug in and get involved.
What do you want to learn at the Tech Summit this year?
Oh, wow. That's really one of the hardest questions, because every year I book all these speakers and work with many other groups to kind of curate their sessions and panels, and I can't see them all.
Yeah.
You can't absorb it all.
Right.
So you have to pick and choose. I hop between every single session for a few minutes here and there. Yeah. I'm really hoping to learn a lot more about artificial intelligence, particularly agents, and how agents can talk to other agents, how they can power companies, how you begin to think about problem solving maybe in a new, a faster, a dynamic way that wasn't possible just a few years ago. And then, that learning curve is steep, and it's exciting, and it's fun. So I look forward to diving into that.
Oh yeah, that's going to be amazing. Well, Stanfield Gray with the Dig South Tech Summit, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Up for this interview sponsored by Pollard.
It's an honor to be on Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, I've known him since the 90s.
We're old.
Thank you.